All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. Mitch Michals here. It's all part of the Believe Network. We've got tons of great content. We're available on all your podcast platforms, and we're talking Wimbledon 2025. It's an unprecedented tournament, a lot of storylines, a lot to discuss. Joining me now, Tennis Channel producer, co-host of the Advantage Connors podcast with his father, the Hall of Famer Jimmy Connors, all-around tennis knowledgeable guy, and a friend of mine, Brett Connors. Welcome back to the podcast.
Money Mitch, how you doing, man? It's good to be back talking a little Wimbledon grass court tennis with you.
Yeah, there's just a lot to get to. Like, we've done it again, right? Wimbledon 2025. We always say like we're going to run out of storylines and there's going to be issues, but here we are again, a new and different type of Wimbledon, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. With all the upsets early on, you thought maybe it wouldn't be exciting, but then always as new storylines pop up and new players, and it's fun to just follow along and see where we end up here on Sunday in a few days.
So there's a lot of different ingredients each year, for lack of a better metaphor. Like, we're looking at each slam differently, and there's upsets, there'll be favorites. There's just so many different storylines, but a lot of different subplots as we enter we've already entered the quarterfinal round. We've got a second day of them coming up tomorrow as we record this Tuesday night in London. But Brett, the big one was that Sinner Dimitrov match. A lot happening there. Brutal for Grigor. Sinner survives, but we'll see what kind of shape he's in. A lot of areas there. Sinner was the number 2 favorite in the odds, behind obviously Carlos Alcaraz, and he had the elbow thing. But you start with this Grigor Dimitrov, Brett, just a brutal hand dealt to an all-around likable guy across the tour. Fifth slam in a row that he's retired from. Something happened in his pec up 2 sets against the number 1 player in the world. Doesn't get much worse and doesn't get much more cruel in sports than what happened to Dimitrov.
Yeah, man, that was tough to watch. I got into London yesterday and got dragged to see Moulin Rouge by the girlfriend, and was listening. I had one headphone in, listening to the tennis, and it was. I mean, that's heartbreaking for Dimmy. I mean, like you said, everyone likes him. He's been around forever. From when he was baby fed all the way to now. But 5 straight slams where he has to pull the ripcord is kind of a crazy stat. Just like, talk about bad luck. And it didn't look like Sinner was maybe in it to go 5 sets. Like, it looked like if he just kind of kept holding serve and doing what he had been doing the first 2.5 sets, that he'd probably walk out of there in 3 or 4 sets. Sinner had the little thing with his arm, and then just to see that, like, at least he went out again and took that next serve, and it was just like, you can see on his lips, reading his lips, my pec, and it's just heartbreaking, because that's an injury that's going to take a while to recover from. You always think of like offensive linemen or something in NFL when they're blocking and their pec blows out, and it's always a while before they're back on the field.
Yeah, I won't get into specifics because we don't know them. What happened with Dimitrov? Those injuries in the NFL are very contact driven, and you see an issue right away. So hopefully, I'm pretty optimistic that it won't be like a full year recovery. But he knew immediately. The trainer touched on the sideline. The trainer kind of made contact, and he winced immediately. So it was just a brutal break. And yeah, Sinner got a lifeline. It was weird, right? Because we had the elbow issue, and we know that was part of it. But he didn't look right from the beginning in watching that match. And there's a couple areas to go. Obviously, there's no guarantee, right, that Dimitrov would have won the match. We've seen players at all levels come back from 2 sets down. But for Sinner, the storyline has been, Brett, the one thing, obviously, other than beating Carlos Alcaraz, but he hasn't won those long physical matchups. That's the one hole on his resume, right? Like the 3-hour, 3.5, 4-hour matchups. He hasn't found a way to win those. And I wonder, as his career progresses, if that's going to be a thing he solves or a thing that kind of lingers going forward.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good in Paris. He didn't really get beat up there, going that classic match, going 5 with Carlos. But I mean, this wasn't a long match, and he hadn't been pushed too hard in his early rounds, so that's what made it kind of weird, But after, was he going to have the hangover after RG? He took that loss to Bublik, who was playing really well in Halle, but still kind of wanted to see, the first time he maybe got challenged, and last night was it. And so it was such an interesting situation. Like, does he just go away? Does he fight back? Is the arm that bad? How is it going into his next match against Shelton, which, is a popcorn match? But, it's hard to know what's going on with them just until we get a little more information.
Yeah, as of right now, I mean, because you saw it, right? The odds makers, the line kept coming down. There was an MRI, not sure of the results, didn't do his normal practice, but practiced indoors, as said by Darren Cahill, who's been a guest on your show. And they basically just said, look, we got some hits in. We wanted to see where we are. all signs are that he's taking the court tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's one to monitor. And then the tie-in here, Brett, is does that open the door for Novak Djokovic, who wasn't his best performance against de Minaur, but it was a mastery of how to navigate the best of 5 set waters, overcome adversity after a bad first set. And he won the last 5 games of that match to avoid playing a fifth. So we can debate and discuss what his quality, what his A game looks like at this point. But just on the surface of coming back from a set down, finishing it in 4 by going on that streak at the end, another masterclass for a 38-year-old who's chasing one more title.
Yeah, definitely. I was surprised to see Shelton and Sinner on court 1. And then we were texting earlier, and you're like, how's his arm? And I'm like, well, maybe that's why they put him on court 1, because they're scared that he might, have to pull out. So they want to make sure that the center court gets the better ticket, quote unquote. But Joker just seems to be playing Joker tennis. Like this tournament more than any other one in his career seems to be like he's able to switch his style a little bit. He tries to shorten the points, come in a little bit more, use the touch shots a little bit more. And it looked like it was maybe going 5 the way Dimi got out in that 4th set, and he just kept grinding. And kind of once that switch happened, you kind of looked like here he comes. And Shelton's been playing great, but I feel like if Shelton comes through against Sinner, or there's an injury or whatever, that you got to like Joker against Cobolli tomorrow, and then you probably favor him obviously against Shelton too.
Right, like Shelton, and we'll get to him in a second, but Shelton would have to theoretically go through Sinner, Djokovic, and Alcaraz. Like if that's what we're saying, then that's why the draws do matter and the breaks you get do matter in this regard and in any tournament. But yeah, don't you feel too, like I know you guys, you and your dad have talked about this too, where there might be repetitive styles and the game gets bigger and physical. With Djokovic, I just feel like he understands how to switch things up, how to throw plan Bs and alternate his game plan even within mid-match. I also think he's still the master, not necessarily going to out-hit you at every turn, but he's going to pull you side to side. He's going to view the court kind of like a geometry problem and figure out a way to just maximize every square inch of space on the grass court.
Yeah, I thought that there was an interview a few weeks back where Cahill was talking about, Sinner had lost to Joker in that tough 5-setter here a few years back, and he went and talked to him, and he said that once he figured out his ball, that he kind of did the same patterns and was hitting the same ball, and that's helped Sinner, realize he has to mix it up and change his style and not be predictable. And it seems like that's what happens in a lot of his matches. He might lose a set or lose the first set like he did the other day, but like once he figures out what you're trying to do, he's got so many other plans, plan B, C, D, whereas a lot of other guys only kind of maybe play one way. He's got so many different ways. Once he kind of can find the thing he exploits, that it just makes him, maybe the best of all time, like we always talk about. And so, it's hard to bet against him here. Carlos is another animal. After seeing him today, I know we'll get into that, but if we get those two for a 3rd straight year in the final, I wouldn't be too upset.
Well, we can get to him now because, it was... Well, really, the biggest thing with Carlos, Brett, is he is resembling the all-time greats that we've seen just recently and even back in the heyday where they ramp up. They play better each round as it goes on. And that's what we're starting to see. We didn't always see it from Carlos. Even in this tournament, though, you look, struggles against Fognini, is dumping sets left and right around, in the early rounds. But against Cam Norrie, we're into the quarterfinal rounds, and he just locks it down, plays smart, plays efficient, didn't have to play flashy. And that was the big thing that stuck out to me, is that he didn't need the flash today. He realized that, and he just played very methodical and picked him apart time and time again. So if you see a more mature Carlos Alcaraz, good luck, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I've sat and watched his match today, luckily, and he's serving well. He served really well today. He was holding, it just seemed like at love, like every time, and Norrie's been playing pretty solid. So, I mean, it's not like Norrie came in not playing well. But, man, Carlos can go from defense to offense so quick, and he can hit such powerful shots from, like, hard spots where, like, the other guy thinks, hey, maybe I have him out wide or I got him on the run. It's almost more dangerous because he's able to just... And his forehand, dude. I mean, the way he rips his forehand, it sounds like something else, when you're sitting there live. So it's going to be tough to beat him. He's the favorite, I think, by far. But just have to see how Sinner feels, and then if it's not Sinner, you gotta like Djokovic, unless somebody else can come through and surprise us.
Yeah, at this point, he has deserved everything said about him. This might be, I think it is the longest win streak he's had in his career, too. So he is on an absolute heater and has just figured out every ounce of, managing his shot selection, too, because you talk about that at times where sometimes he has too many options, too many tools, might get a little greedy with what he tries, but when he sees the finish line, he is an explosive finisher as well. So Alcaraz doing what he does, and yeah, a couple Americans still to discuss because Alcaraz will get Taylor Fritz. That was the other quarterfinal today. He beats Karen Hatchnow for the first time in his career in 3 tries. First meeting on grass. Fritz wins in 4 sets. Third set didn't go his way, but he finds a way to win the 4th set in a tiebreak. This kind of put a stamp for me on Fritz, Brett. His journey to this point, right? He was, by his own mouth, an underachiever. He was not getting the best out of his career. It wasn't that long ago when he couldn't even get to the second week of a slam. Now he's a bona fide top 5 player and climbing into his first Wimbledon semifinal and figuring out how to play on grass. So I think that the world of what Fritz has done to elevate himself into the upper echelon of this sport.
Yeah, man. Fritz is, I mean, he's playing really well. He's surprised me a little bit. I know we always talk about, guys who are contenders for slams usually take the week before the slam off. And he decided to play Eastbourne, I think, because he won Stuttgart and then he had the early exit in Queens that like kind of left some people scratching their head. And I wondered if he did well in Queens, does he take Eastbourne off? But because he lost early, he plays Eastbourne, wins it. And then he has 2 tough first 2 rounds, goes 10 sets in his first 2 rounds. So, he's battle tested for sure. And it just seems like his A game is getting better and better, especially in the slams. He's starting to step up. It'll be tough against Carlos because Carlos has so many weapons and is so good on grass, man. Carlos it's crazy to watch how good he is on clay, and then he can flip it up and go to the grass, which, it's homogenized a lot more now, but it's still a different surface. You still play different shots. The serve is more important. Coming to net is more important. But Fritz it's impressive. I mean, to have, 2 Americans still alive this late in a slam. And they both grass court sets up for both their games. So it's nice to see him coming through and into a semi. Now he's got a free swing to try and win this thing.
Yeah, I agree with that, Brett. I think he's a real contender. I also think, there's a theory that I'm workshopping that he didn't, all due respect to Altmaier, I never felt like Fritz was really in Roland Garros mentally and physically. He was kind of sleepwalking through the beginning of that match and he was out before you know it. He had no excuse. He couldn't do that this time. It was Mapeshi, Perricard, Diallo who won the grass court title, and then Fokina. So I think that helped him a lot. And for a guy, as you said, that loves to play tennis, that maybe most cases it's better to take that week off. He might be wired and built a little differently. I think that might have been the best thing for him to be locked in, have to be locked in early.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, especially like, not getting the match play at RG, and then getting a lot of match play on the grass. I mean, because I think a lot of people don't know how to adjust to the grass. It's such a short season. Some people don't take it as seriously, like Casper, and some people, oh, whatever. If I take an early loss, I'll go play Wimbledon and then get onto the hard courts. But I think also getting that, retirement from Thompson wasn't a bad thing. Having so many sets under his belt so far to get a quick match out there, it was nice going into a, catchy, maybe not a normal grass court player, but what I saw something now, he's like the only guy born in the 90s to make 2 quarterfinals at like here in RG or something like that. So, I mean, he's able to go deep. I don't know if he can win it, but I mean, to get a win over Catchy's good and just be fun to see how he does against Carlos. He's going to keep bumping into these guys if he makes runs like this. These are the guys he's going to play once he gets to the semifinals. But unlike Shelton, he's only got to beat 2 of them. So should be maybe not as much to ask.
It's a tough go for the male tennis players born in the 1990s. Hasn't exactly been fruitful, to say the least. But, well, we'll see. Fritz has an opportunity to change some things. How about Ben Shelton, though, Brett? Because his reputation is steadily being built as a big money, big match player. I mean, it goes without saying. The form going in doesn't matter as much. I spoke about this a little bit on Friday, but he comes into these matchups. He just completed the hat trick against Sonego, beat him in all 3 slams so far this year. And those matches have been tight. And if he gets to a tiebreaker, Brett, he's just locked in. I'm wondering, too, what are you seeing from Ben on the grass? Because it hadn't happened really before this year. But also in those tiebreakers, in those big pressure moments, why is he able to just navigate them and find a way to win?
I mean, I think with his serve and his power game, with so much energy and his athleticism, he puts a lot of pressure on his opponents, and so it's like once you get into a breaker, that's a tough thing. You're struggling so much, you just want to try and hold serve, and you get into the tie break, and if you have one bad point, all of a sudden you could be, the set's over. So, I mean, I feel like grass court sets up for him. You know, he didn't play great in the lead up events, but you're right. He gets ready for the slams, which is a good thing. On one hand, it's great, and then I'd like to see him carry that over to the smaller events where he takes every tournament just as serious, and he brings that style of game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like he can rack up a lot of tournament wins and start beating all these guys consistently, and then come into these slams as one of the favorites every time. So. He's fun to watch, man. He's got a lot of energy out there. He's got the sister, the girlfriend, his dad's. It seems like his dad's a really good coach. Having been a player for so long on tour, and it's fun to see a lot of Americans on both sides, men and women. This slam, it's a couple different names on the women's side. I'm sure we'll get into that. But man, Shelton's fun to watch, and I like the fact that he's got some attitude and some swagger out there, and he brings it in the majors, which is a good thing.
I like the fact that Bryan Shelton, who was an accomplished player himself, we have this access to coaching now that we never had before because it's legal and they're mic'd up and we're getting to see certain things. But Brett, what strikes me about him and his relationship with his son is great, obviously, but he doesn't overload him in these matches. And I feel like that does happen with coaches that are trying too much to overload or maybe just not providing enough info. With Bryan Shelton and the clips that we've seen, and you've produced some of them, it's very direct, very specific messaging, but it's not all the time. It's just, here's a few things, what you can do, right? And we talked about the coaching debate. It's an individual sport. You want to be able to still maintain your ability to problem solve on your own. I think the Sheltons have figured out a way to have the dad, the coach, provide insight, but not overload the son, let him solve his own problems still.
Definitely. I mean, like Butch Harmon used to tell me when I took some golf lessons from him back in the day, he said, one or two things. When you get up there to try and hit the ball, just have like one or two little things that you're thinking about. Don't try and think about 10 things at once. And it seems like that's the same, style of coaching that his dad does. I like the fact that his dad like smiles when he's out there. He'll laugh, or there'll be a moment in the match where Ben looks over and his dad's not so, stoic faced. He breaks a smile and he laughs a little bit, which I think is a good thing. A lot of these coaches are so serious and so scared to give the wrong reaction to their player, where I think, in those moments it probably helps break some of the tension. It's also your pops, who you've been through everything with, since you were a kid. He coached them at Florida, so he's been there from the beginning. And man, I think it's a good team. I feel like they're going to be together, maybe all of his career for a very long time, because what he's doing is working.
So if I walk into the club where Butch Harmon's working, it'll say Tiger Woods, Brett Connors, two pupils that I worked on.
Exactly. Yep. Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, Bretters. Yeah.
Yeah.
But didn't quite pan out the way the other two did. But Butch is a good guy. He's a really funny guy.
Well, Shelton, as we know, is an athlete too, and that's part of it. The British interviewer said quarterbacker, which is a new position. I think we're making up for Ben Shelton. But I looked at him and some of the other players, and really the last guy to talk about, Flavio Cobolli. The athleticism is what shines the most for some of these players. And Cobolli, when you watch him, he's had an interesting year. It's been up and down. He's certainly up right now. We've talked about Italian tennis. He gets through on how well they're doing. He gets through Cilic, the aging veteran who took out Jack Draper. But when I watch Cobolli, I just marvel at his ability to move out there, some of the shot making. It shows you that when you have an opportunity, when the draw opens up, Brett, you have to take advantage of it. And props to Cobolli, he did just that.
Yeah, I like Cobolli a lot. I was on the Cobolli train last year. I was working US Open for USTA, and I snuck away and watched a practice with him and Carlos on center court one day. And he's fun, man. He's not the biggest guy, so he has to grind a little more and doesn't have maybe the hugest weapons. But he's flashy. He's got personality, and he had a terrible start to the year where it was just like brutal. But the way he's been able to turn it around, I think he won like Hamburg. And the fact that he's having success on grass is a little surprising, but the way his game is, he's got good ground strokes. He moves great. He's one of the great Italian players out there. I was bummed that Cilic lost. I kind of like the old Cilic resurrection there. Maybe one last time at a major. Old school, the old dudes. But man, Cobolli, plays Joker. It's going to be tough because I feel like Joker does everything that Cobolli does a little better. And with all the experience and having to play on center court at Wimbledon against a 7-time champ, 24 majors, is going to be tough. But like some of the other guys, like Fritz, we said, some of these guys get a free swing because they're not exactly expected to go out there and beat these guys. So like a little bit of the pressure can be off and just go out there and have fun and let it rip.
Yeah, it is obviously going to be a very tough task, but props to Cobolli for getting this far and showing us that there's another Italian in the mix, right? Somebody else that can kind of maybe just make a move and make a play. So I'm pumped to see it. We got Brett Connors here on the Inside in Tennis podcast talking Wimbledon 2025. The women's event has been no slouch in action too, and really when you think about it, we had all the upsets early. We had a lot of seeds go out on both, but especially the women. Doubts on what was that going to lead to? What's the second week going to look like? Exciting, riveting, and we're gearing up for some good semis and a good final based on the players left. The overwhelming favorite going into today and really going into this round was Aryna Sabalenka, and she survived by the skin of her teeth against Laura Siegemund, who had knocked out Keys, had been playing very well, 37 years old, overcoming an injury. Sabalenka, Brett, had to claw her way out of desperation. Wasn't her best day, was getting frustrated, but she maintained the ship. She did not capsize, and it was just brilliant to watch her battle back and not do what she'd done in the early stages of her career, right? Like have a bit of a meltdown. There was no meltdown today, and Sabalenka wins the final 3 games, wins the match, and the dream for that first Wimbledon title continues.
Yeah, man. And we've talked about it before. I love Sabby. Her and Ostapenko are my 2 favorites on the women's tour.
Yeah.
But I watched that whole match today, and I mean, Siegemund actually really impressed me. She maintained her serve pretty good there for the most part, especially the first set and a half. And she returned really well, which was surprising because Sabby's serve is such a weapon, and normally she's able to get so many free points. Siegemund was taking the ball a little earlier and putting it back at her feet. But you never kind of had the feeling that Sabby was going to lose. You're like she'll get it going, she'll figure it out, she'll get it going. And she got that second set 6-2, and then got down the break. I think maybe twice in the third set.
Yeah.
But then Siegemund started thinking about it a little bit. She threw in a couple double faults, and then it was just like once she held to go up, it was like she's going to break her here. You kind of felt like it then in that last game. And yeah, she did, man. I mean, her ground strokes are heavy. Her style should set up for the grass. I mean, I know she's made semis, I think, here before, but never a final. So she's got a great matchup next, against Anisimova, 2 big hitters, heavy ground strokes. So that should be fun. But I'm personally, I'm rooting for Sabby because I'd love to see her. She's had a couple heartbreaking losses at RG and AO, but I think she can do it. I think she's got a really good chance.
The most consistent player in the WTA by a mile for the last several years. 2 finals already this year. No hardware to show in the majors, but it always did feel like she was going to win here and have success here. But because of misfortune, because of other issues, hadn't happened, didn't play last year. Now is her chance. And that could be the pressure too. I wonder if she wasn't just feeling the weight of Siegemund, who played well, crafty, was pushing right up against that line of the rules of taking her time and doing things, good gamesmanship. But it was fine. But I wonder too, it's not so much that she's looking at the odds, Brett, but she knew coming in, okay, Coco's out, Pagula, say all these seeds are out, Iga's on the other side, so is Andreeva, this might be her chance. She was recognized and deservedly so, as the overwhelming favorite. So it's human nature to feel some of that pressure when you haven't won here before.
Yeah, I mean, going in, I was like, this first match is going to be really quick. I was telling the people I went with, and instead that ends up being the more entertaining, great dramatic match, that almost goes 3 hours long. That's another thing that's crazy. So many of these grass court matches nowadays go 3 hours, man. 2 out of 3 sets, even in the prelims and the warm-ups. You're what happened to quick, fast matches on grass, dude?
That's why I love Fritz Diallo. Fritz Diallo was one of my favorite matches. They played 5 sets, and it was under 4, I think. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's wild. But I mean, they had so many deuce games and back and forth. Yeah. It was a great, maybe it's not great quality at sometimes, but the score line made it so much fun because you didn't know who was going to win. It was back and forth. The gamesmanship, there was the little old lady sitting behind me watching the clock, and she kept going the clock's out, the clock's out. She was almost yelling, and then the ump finally called one warning on her. But yeah, I think, Sabby might have felt that. She's the best player left in the draw. Obviously, Iga's great, but Iga's not had the grass court success that you would expect in the past with someone who's been one in the world. But yeah, man, I mean, Sabby came through. That was a test for her. That was the hardest match that she's had, and I think it's a good thing. If she's able to come through that, and she's if I can win that down whatever it was 4-2 in the third, then I should be able to take this momentum all the way to the trophy.
Could be getting there. She gets Anisimova, Amanda, another American, the last American left in the women's draw. She's into the semifinals, and the match against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, who I know is another one of your personal favorites. 9 years from her Wimbledon quarterfinal, which is perseverance in one regard for sure, but Anisimova's perseverance for what she's been through, from the 17-year-old Roland Garros semifinalist, all the ups and downs, personal setback, taking a break to address her mental health, All that remained, Brett, was that she was one of and is one of the best ball strikers in all of tennis. This was setting up to be routine until it wasn't. It could have been an entirely different match if Anisimova did not win that second set tiebreaker. You wonder what would have happened, but she put those questions to rest. She came up big. The backhand was buzzing. She's got a real shot, not just obviously against Sabalenka, who she's beaten before, Brett, but she has a real shot to win this tournament.
Definitely. I mean, you feel like all the six players that are left, going into tomorrow, all kind of have a shot. Maybe not Samsonova, but you never know. Like she could get hot and get through. But yeah, man, Pavi's a grinder. Like always with her, it's her health. Like if she can stay healthy, she has the game to beat anybody. And she showed that against this week. Again this week, making a quarterfinal. But Anisimova is so good off the ground. It's one of those things where when she believes in herself, she had the early success winning the Masters 1000 earlier this year.
Yeah.
I like so many Americans doing well, where it's like, okay, Coco and Pagula go out early. It's like Navarro and Anisimova, pick up the reins and just go, and like there's always going to be a couple of them, in the mix, and you got Shelton and Fritz on the other side. But yeah, man, Anisimova is a fighter. I like watching her out there. She's fun, and her game sets up well for the grass. She's got the big ground strokes, and she likes to play the quick points, serve +1 kind of stuff. And so, it's going to be a lot of that, I feel like, in her match against Savvy. It's going to be like who can out-hit each other, who can grunt each other a little bit. And so it should be fun.
It's going to sound different when they hit, too. They're probably going to crack it. It's going to be great to watch those two.
Yeah.
Could the Americans sweep the slams? Could they do it with 4 different women? These possibilities are still out there. So,
that'd be crazy.
Opportunity.
Man. Yep, that'd be fun. It seems like there's with so many of them that have the game to do it. It's just a matter of like you're not going to knock them all out. Like one or two of them is going to sneak through there and get into the second week, and then once they're in the second week, they got a chance to win it.
Well, those other 2 quarterfinals on the women's side, they are fascinating, and I'm with you. Like we've reached the point now where any one of these women win it, even Samsonova, even Belinda Bencic, it wouldn't be a complete shock. We've seen maybe more improbable things. Samsonova gets Iga, and from Iga's perspective, Iga on grass looks a lot different than it did last year or maybe 2-3 years ago. Part of it is Wim Fissette has worked with her. Rome's never built in a day, and it's taken time to get to this point, but Iga's embraced it. She looks more comfortable on the surface, and her serve looks better. I mean, it's from the eye test, right? It had let her down at times, and you're not seeing that now. So Iga won with an opportunity. Would be maybe the most improbable, I would almost say funniest, but it'd be just typical tennis if Iga just goes on a run all the way to the title at Wimbledon. Like this is where she finds her game and wins her first title in over a year on grass at Wimbledon.
Right. Yeah, I think a little bit of it is she's like slipping under the radar a little bit. Her ranking dropped off because she hadn't won a tournament or made a final in over a year. And so like the expectations are already low. She's never done well here. Her game doesn't set up for the grass, blah, blah, blah. And so everyone's looking at Sabby and noticing all the upsets. And then she's just over there, chugging along, picking up wins and just like staying under the radar. And I kind of like this version of Iga. Iga's been number 1. She's won lots of slams, tons of tournaments. I like the fact that she's had some adversity now. This last year hasn't been, great for her. She's had the different coach come in, like you said, with Wim. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Sabby and her in the final. I know we've always talked about wanting that at RG, but it would be kind of interesting too to have it on the grass, and then Sabby has all the pressure. Sabby's supposed to win that match, so Iga can go in there with no pressure and just let it rip and hope the serve hangs on and do what she does.
Yeah, that would be an interesting dynamic for their rivalry, which Iga's had the hammer, but it's because of the clay factor. Iga's had the hammer, but maybe Sabalenka figured it out and could be a turning of the tide with what happened at Roland Garros. But Iga, very dangerous. She gets Samsonova next. Now, I mentioned she's 4-0 against her. She's held the hammer in that matchup. But Samsonova hasn't lost a set in this tournament, and we can talk about draws and whatnot. But I always felt like, Brett, there's types of players on the women's side especially, taller, bigger serve, know how to play grass court, get to the net. Samsonova has all the tools to succeed here, so it shouldn't be shocking that we've reached this point. This is the crucial part, though. Can she break through against the very best? She's done so well to put herself in this position, but the stakes and the quality of opposition really raise here.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's got a chance, though, because, I mean, she's playing Iga. This isn't her favorite surface, and no one's probably giving her any chance. She's also snuck through under the radar. She had a couple good events in the lead-ups. I can't remember which one it was, but she made a little bit of a run. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if she beats Iga. It's one of those things where if she's going to play Iga, she wants to play her on this court, on this surface, over hard court and clay for sure. But yeah, you never know. You know, it'll be fun to watch tomorrow and see who comes out. Interesting that that one's also on court one. Kind of thought that and the Sinner match might be the center court matches, but you know, almost like court one might have the better ticket tomorrow.
Tricky with the win. I don't know. That's hindsight's 2020, right? The better match is going to be the one they don't pick. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Like the men's thing is just, I think, an injury insurance policy. They don't want center court, you know, screwed with by an injury. But, you know, because Andreeva Bencic, there's tons of storylines for different reasons in that one. You have the veteran, not even that old, obviously not even 30 yet, but someone that's been around a while, hasn't had her breakthrough in Belinda Bencic, and, you know, takes the break to, you know, have a child, setting up her family life, still very young, still very smart on the court. It's like her brain is outworking a lot of these matchups, but she's tough. And she's won big matches. She hasn't had the Grand Slam success, but this could be her opportunity. What she did against Alexandrova, a match, Brett, that I got dead wrong. I thought it would be Alexandrova, but Bencic still has a lot of fight and still has a lot of game on the grass at Wimbledon.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see her. You know, she took the time off. She won a tournament earlier this year, like pretty quickly after coming back, within like 6-7 months of having her baby. I feel like, I think that'll be good. And I like Andreeva. I think she's one of those players.
It seems like she's figured it out. Like it kind of seems like on grass, at least. Like, and we had questions with how RG ended, but a young player, you never know until they do it because the season's so short. But it does kind of feel like she's, you know, Baptiste Navarro, like she's figured it out on the grass.
Yeah. And I was interested to see how she bounced back after RG. She kind of had that weird quarterfinal match where she's let the crowd get to her, and she kind of, you know, acted out of character a little bit there. Maybe showed her, you know, her youth, you know, because she's still so young. We forget about that. But it feels like she's one of those players where once she gets it, she's going to be, you know, top 2 or 3 favorite at the slams for a lot of years. And she's got a good personality, man. You know, I think she's pretty funny. Like I saw that she was out watching her coach playing like the legends, and she had like a sign out there, you know.
Yeah.
She seems like she can laugh at herself, and you know, for such a young age, a lot of players are so like focused that they don't think to make jokes or to have fun with the press or with other players, and I like that about her. It seems like she's not too, you know, robotic, where a lot of the players are, you know, so like don't let anything bother you, just stay focused, think about the next point. You know, she's funny, and she's got a good coach behind her who's had success here on the grass and can teach her a lot about, you know, playing on the grass. And, you know, and all that. So I think it's been nice to see her bounce back after the way she went out at RG.
Yeah, that was, I mean, the last game against Busan, she just wanted to be off the court. It was tough. It was, I mean, you're old enough to remember. It was like Martina Hingis, Steffi Graf at Roland Garros, where a young player kind of let the crowd get to them and unravel. But yeah, steps right back onto the court, no problem, and has big match experience already. So it's a tricky one, though, because Belinda Bencic is no slouch. This will be a fascinating matchup stylistically. And then, yeah, you're at a point now. You're at a point now, Brett, where you think, okay, how do we predict? How do we handicap where it goes? Sabalenka has been to this spot before, has had some brutal losses. What was it? Ons Jabeur and I think Pliskova were just too tough right there losses. So you'd expect her to win this match close, but Anisimova is right there. And on the other side, if it's Iga Andreeva as chalk prevails, then that would be a fun matchup. But I do think we could see an upset in one of those two tomorrow. So plenty of possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, Bencic, I think, you know, both of them can win. I think anyone could, like you said, all 4 players could win that one. I think as looking forward, I think Sabby has, you know, the pressure on her, quote unquote, just because everyone's expecting her to win. And I think in the past, Sabby's done things where she, you know, makes a quarter, gets to the semis, struggles to get past the semis. Like she has to do it a couple times before she breaks through. You know, and she's made the semi here before, so maybe it's one of those things where now, look, I've done it here a couple times on the surface that I'm not used to playing. And then, you know, she goes through and gets into the final and gives herself a chance to win it. I think, not that she needs it, but I think it would be nice for her to get it, just because, you know, losing in 2 consecutive major finals is tough. And like, you really don't want to lose a third in the semi or final again, you know, so you like to be able to finish, get over the finish line here and at least grab 1 slam on the year going into US Open in about 6 weeks.
Yeah, it would be very tough if she made the final and lost again. That would be my prediction. Like, it'd just be tough because she's, you know, been the best player. It's been something we've seen, but you have to, you know, there's only one winner. And if it's not you, you're going to feel like you obviously let down, even though you did better than players that have lost first round and they've already moved on. They're already, you know, in Newport here or doing, you know, something else.
Right. Also, she's lost to Americans in both of those majors. She doesn't have to play an American in the final if she gets there, but she has to play one, in the semis.
Yeah.
So it's like she also doesn't want to make it a trend where it's like, oh, anytime I see an American late in a slam, they're beating me. So she's looking to break that streak, and it should be an exciting weekend. Even though the way the tournament started with so many upsets and losses, you're like, oh no, is this going to be a good slam? Are we going to lose so many guys? Everyone was thinking Draper and Joker in the quarter, like we all project ahead and look at all these matchups, and then all the other players are like, look, we practice too. We'd like to try and win these matches. So it's still going to turn out, I think, to be a good weekend. I really hope Sinner's healthy. I really hope everyone's still healthy and we can get really good matchups with everyone feeling okay the rest of the way.
9 straight years, we're gonna have a new member of the All England Club on the women's side. Just that's 9 crazy. Straight, and that's wild. It's not new member, I should say, because there's been repeat. Like Serena won in there, and she'd been a winner before. But like 9 new different winners, and this year we will have a first-time champion. So I mean, we've seen Vondrousova, Rybakina, Krejcikova, still wild.
That's crazy.
Still wild that happened.
Yeah, I thought she was posting stuff like she was taking pictures of herself, like all the pictures around town with her, and it was almost like can she still believe that she won here last year? I mean, the way her game is, you wouldn't think it sets up for the grass. Yeah. She's such a great clay court player, also good on the hard courts, but it just shows you that the way the balls bounce and the courts are, that all these players can play on all the surfaces, and they all have a chance to win and go deep.
So as we wrap up here on the Inside In Tennis podcast, Mitch Michals, Brett Connors, we got Wimbledon quarterfinal action on the men's side, and one semi in stone as well. But Sinner, Shelton, and knock on wood, we hope that Sinner is going to be playing by the time you listen to this. Hopefully it's all clear and we got a great match on our hands. But they played a bunch before. Sinner's had the edge. He's been the better player, but they've been tight, right? There's been tie breaks. There's been close sets. Do you expect more of the same? And do you think this could be that stepping stone for Shelton to break through, possibly even win the match?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Shelton, you want to get Sinner in this situation where maybe he's got some sort of little nagging injury. I mean, obviously doesn't want it to, but it's like it gives him a better chance to come through and win. But yeah, like Sinner's tough. And he didn't look good, like against Demi. Demi played really well and was hitting his spots on every serve. So he was kind of taking the racket out of his hand on the return games. But, interested to see, like Sinner's had some success on grass. I think he won Hollow once. He made the semis here, I think once. And so, this is a good chance for Shelton. You don't know how he is. You got to go in thinking he's going to be fit. You don't want to sit there thinking about his arm and, getting that stuck in your head. Just go out there, handle your game, take care of your serve, keep dropping bombs, keep playing aggressive, keep doing all the stuff he's been doing, And, I mean, he's got a shot. It's more of a shot than I think maybe he's had in some of the other slams. And he's only losing in slams to like the best guys. If you notice, like over the last couple of years, it's like he's not losing to scrubs. He's losing to the best players in the world, and that's what you want to see as a young guy coming up. Like, look, if he's going to lose, he's losing to one of the top 2 or 3 guys in the world. So that's not a bad loss.
Sinner in Australia, Alcaraz and RG. Now Sinner again. We'll see what happens. But yeah, maybe if we look back, taking a set off Alcaraz and RG was the start of something building towards this point. It's not easy, right? Like even Novak Djokovic, Nadal before him, like these guys have to learn to win. Nadal had to beat Federer at Wimbledon, took a few tries. Djokovic had to break through. So we'll see what happens with Shelton. Speaking of Djokovic, it's a pretty big game spread against Cobolli. It'd be a monumental upset if he were to knock him off. But maybe the theory of just another Italian on the depth chart, because Djokovic has had some losses. I know they've been best of 3 to some Italians, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I just find it hard just because Cobolli plays a similar style as Joker. He's going to try and grind and wear you down. And I just think that Joker maybe Cobolli could get a set, definitely could win a set, but I feel like Djokovic will figure out what he does and be able to exploit it. And he's running out of chances. He's 38 years old, so anytime he gets to a quarterfinal and this close to another major, he's not going to mess up. I feel like he's going to bring his game and go out there and do what he's done for the last 20 years and try and bring home number 25.
This definitely feels like the last best chance. Not the last chance, but it feels like how it's shaping up, given that, time is going to continually go against him. Like he can hold it off, but it's not, Sinner, not sure. We'll see. I do think that him versus Alcaraz and we'll see if we get there, but him versus Alcaraz, what that could mean, I don't think you take much from last year and I'm not the first person to say this, but given Djokovic's injury and given how Djokovic has found a way to figure it out, if we get to that point, it could be special. But, Sinner and Ben Shelton and Taylor Fritz are going to have a lot to say about that. That's the beauty of where we are.
Definitely. And I just think, man, I think he's got a chance anywhere he steps on the court. But this, for some reason, Wimbledon just seems to set up for his game. He's got the family there. He's got the kids who are old enough now to appreciate what Dad's doing. And to be honest, I'm just going to go watch tomorrow and just enjoy watching him. You never know. Every time he steps out there, it might be the last time he plays the event, or you never know. Eventually, he's going to stop. Does he make it through the end of the year? If he wins here, does he walk off into the sunset like Elway? Like win 25 and end on Freeway 101 title-wise? Let Pops keep that one, man. Just don't get to 109, will you? Yeah, let him keep just that one. But yeah, man, I'm hoping he comes through tomorrow and sets up. Even if he plays Shelton, Shelton or Sinner, those are both great matchups that I would love to watch and dissect and think about for the next few days.
Yeah, then he takes a couple years off, comes back for the Olympics in LA in 2028. But
nice.
No, I think that Novak Djokovic still is obviously one of the top 3 players in the world, right? The motivation is going to be the key, right? How much longer does he want to play, given that there are 2 guys that have gone past him in a little bit? Now, that doesn't mean they beat him every time, but they've, their accomplishments, as he said, he would not be the favorite against them in matchups. So how much is he going to be willing to put in to try to chase those guys at this point, given all his accomplishments? It's a fascinating thing, and I wonder what would happen too, Brett, if he wins this title. So yeah, I'm with you. We're in appreciation mode. We don't know how much longer we have left, and he's the last of his era. He's outlasted them all, and we'll see what's left. But
yeah, and I think he's been as long as he doesn't go out there, and if he wins tomorrow, he doesn't get stuck in some long match. I think he's had a pretty good, first 5 matches to get to the semis, where he hasn't had a long match that wears him out. Like Jimmy always talks about, look, it's not the match that you go 5 sets necessarily or play for 4.5 hours. It's like the next 1 or 2 where that ends up like catching up with you, And I think he's been his matches have, he went 4 with Dimmenauer, but it wasn't like some long grindy match. A couple of the sets were pretty quick. And so I think, that benefits him when he's trying to make a deep run, being 38 years old with those old man legs, calling him an old man, and I'm like 6-7 years older than him. Like, what am I talking about, dude?
I listened to your show when you guys were talking about the Penfoers match, and yeah, it made sense, right? Like, it took a couple matches before you get to Pat Cash, who's playing really well, and then being on the court so long catches up. But yeah, it's great. Well, before I let you go, Brett, anything else? Any other thoughts? Maybe predictions or just where you see this tournament ending up?
I mean, after watching today, it's hard to bet against Carlos, man. Like, knowing that Sinner might not be right, and that his record against Djokovic the last couple of times they played in this tournament. It's tough to say, but also the way Alcaraz plays, sometimes he does have the dips, so he might give a set here or set there, and that might be enough to give life to somebody like Djokovic, who's so great and knows how to do it and might have a great game plan going in like he did in the Olympics last year. So, I just look forward to that. I look forward to I really want to see Iga in the final, just because, like, why not? All the other players I like. I wouldn't be mad if Anisimova made it, Andreeva, any of those other players. But I think that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. I'd love to see Carlos and Joker, and I'd love to see Sabby and Iga. So,
all right. Well, here's to that, Brett. Always a pleasure chatting with you on the podcast. Enjoy the tennis, and yeah, we'll be listening along to Advantage Connors as well. You guys do great content. Obviously, it's fun to hear a father-son dynamic talk about. It's been a lot of golf actually recently, which is good. I'm kind of like learning about different golf storylines too.
Well, that's how I get him to talk the tennis with me, is that I got to let him talk a little bit of the golf. Man. The guy plays golf 3, 4, 5 days a week with his buddies up there, and he's gambling. He's got 10 games going on, and they go in afterwards and sit at the bar, and it's almost like comedy the way they have to get the scorecard and argue over who made what on what hole, and who's sandbagging and who's cheating that day, and it's just it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, also someone that kind of likes Tommy Fleetwood. That was brutal.
Oh yeah.
But also somebody that never really been a Rory guy. I feel like history is rewarding me a little bit based on some recent behavior. So that's my golf 20-second take there. But Brett, always a pleasure, man. Enjoy Wimbledon. Blast talking tennis with you here on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Money. Appreciate you hanging in there with the Wi-Fi across the pond here. It's been a lot of fun. I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, we made it work. We always do. That's Brett Connors here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. If you like this show, go to wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, download, hit that subscribe button so every episode automatically downloads, and leave a nice rating and a review if you'd be so kind. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel at Mitch Michals to get every episode in video form too. So make sure you do all that. Make sure you enjoy the tennis. This was the Inside in Tennis podcast with Brett Connors. My name is Mitch Michals. We'll be talking to you soon. Enjoy the tennis, everyone.